What a wild day we had in the markets. There's really no other way to describe it, with gold and silver surging today at a dramatic rate because of the trade war that is escalating with China and also the European Union. We'll get into what's going on with gold and silver and why they are proving themselves on this very day as we explore. When the stock market gets hit, usually gold and silver go with it. But in this case, the stock market is recovering, bouncing back off of an earlier announcement in the day, and gold and silver are moving along with it now. In fact, it's such a wild swing. Let me tell you the highs for gold and silver and the lows as well. It is something else. Gold reached up to $3,100 earlier in the day. 3101 and 40 was the high for gold. Got down as low as $2,968.40. But right now, it is up over 3.5%, up $106 in one day right now. It was more than that when it got up to 3101. It is sitting at $3,091.90 right now. Silver is up $1.13. It got up to over $31 earlier in the day. $31.11 was its high. It was as low as $29.31. With a 3.79% increase, a massive surge in price for one day. Silver is resting at $31.07 right now. And platinum and palladium have both had good days as well, but not nearly to the level of gold and silver. They're proving themselves right now on the uncertainty of the trade war. And we are in a trade war, make no mistake about that. But it is not just because of the trade war. There's another reason as well. Treasury yields are rising right now. And this is something that is having an impact. And usually that means when treasury yields rise, that typically is an indicator of worse economic news to come, maybe even a recession. Now, it could turn the other direction, but that has the market nervous, at least in regard to that. But gold paired earlier gains as the U.S. Treasury yields rose, although a weaker dollar and escalating trade tensions between the world's two largest economies underpinned the prices today. A lot moving around and the prices today. In fact, crude oil is also up as well. The Dow Jones is up over 7% right now, a 2,600-point gain for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Nasdaq is up over 12%. So it's crazy. And I think a lot of that is because there's been a pause for the 75 other nations plus that are wanting to negotiate with the Trump administration on tariffs. And so that pause with those other nations. But of course, the biggie is China, obviously. And rising as much as 1.3% in the session, spot gold up. And of course, now we see it again well over 3%, 3.6% right now. Despite falling for 3 consecutive sessions, gold remains bullish with trade tensions and the prospect of a lower U.S. interest rates boosting its allure, according to Lukman Otanuga, who's a senior research analyst at FXTM. Now, if we see a solid breakout, and it has gone above $3,055, then it comes back down to 3,100 to 3,130. Sustained weakness below 3,000 could see it slip towards the 2,950 to 2,930 range. And of course, it did get close to that earlier in the trading session before bouncing back up dramatically after this big announcement that they are pausing tariffs on the nations that want to negotiate. Concerns about a global trade war since Donald Trump's announcement on reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd have raised fears of a recession and prompted investors to take refuge in safe haven assets like gold, even amidst the market bouncing back at this point. The U.S. will impose a 104% tariff on China, and that started today. And of course, this is before another retaliatory tariff was announced by China. And then Donald Trump immediately comes back with a further gain on tariffs. So it's happening very quickly. Shots are being filed almost in an automatic fashion. It's crazy. Now, gold, we know is a safe store of value during times of political and financial uncertainty, and we know that silver is too, just it's more volatile in this point in time. So if you are in a buying mood, and of course right now with the prices going up, I tell you what, you gotta weigh the decision whether or not to make a purchase. But I tell you what, it's still below where it was earlier. It was up to almost $34 an ounce not too long ago, and it could continue to rise for silver, and gold could go well above $3,100 again. Now, Summit Metals is a channel sponsor. I encourage you just to check them out, peruse their website, look at their choices. They're expanding their selection now, but they also have very competitive prices. So check out summitmetals.com. Now, what's going to be happening from here on out? Well, every day is a new day and a new shot across the bow with regards to tariffs. Now, I will say this, that we do have the upper hand here in the United States compared to China. They obviously have a surplus of trade, with the United States. In other words, they trade a lot more. They send a lot more our way than we do to them. So it's going to have a greater impact on them than us. And in a sense, they need our markets. So with them coming back with these shots, and of course, the President Xi Jinping saying that their economy is like an ocean. Well, I tell you what, if it's like an ocean, and then it's an ocean that is going to have some choppy waves for a while. Oceans cause tsunamis, and tsunamis can cause damage. And right now, there is shock waves being set out with this tariff war, this trade war going on specifically with China. And I think, in a sense, it really is sort of the calculus of the Trump administration to make this target. And in a way, I'm more and more in line with this trade war now, really than ever before. I mean, upon studying it, I can see the arguments from both sides. It's going to be some damage on both sides for sure until it gets paired out and evened out. And what does that mean? Well, every time we deal with China, we are essentially funding their military. And the military has shown to be somewhat of a threat, like in Taiwan, the South China Sea. We've been seeing that happen for a long time. Ross Perot even made mention of it back in the '92 debate. So it's something that is really out there, and is something that certainly is a concern, especially considering they're the C in the BRICS, by the way. And they're working, in a sense, against us in one way and with us in another aspect, while stealing our technology and not being a fair player in the game. So we're upsetting the apple cart here, Trump is, and he's been talking about this for years. And so whether or not you voted for him, one thing is for sure, he's been consistent about that. But a lot of us didn't want to have to go through feeling this kind of pain, this uncertainty that we find ourselves in. That's where gold and silver come in, folks. Gold and silver are reacting, and they have been known to move dramatically down and now bouncing back dramatically to the upside. Not quite to where it was before all of this started, but still, it's heading back up in that direction. And with gold pretty much flirting with all-time highs, it shouldn't surprise you very much that we see a consolidation period with gold anyway, consolidating back. Some people feel it's a little overvalued. Silver, on the other hand, well, we know that it is going to be much more impacted, especially with regards to items coming to and from, and manufacturing of items in China that come to the United States, that electronics and the like, and there's a lot of that occur. So there could be disruptions there that could weigh on the price of silver. In other words, it could fall. But right now, as I'm continuing to watch the markets moments before they close, or minutes away from closing, silver has now ticked back up again. It's $31.05 now. So about 6 cents away from its high today of $31.11. So we could start to see silver make a recovery here too, but expect volatility. Expect further dips in some ways with the markets and with gold and silver as we navigate uncharted territory. This is something that has not been talked about or been done for well over 100 years. The last one to implement such widespread tariffs was a very different economy, a very different nation back in the late 1800s, early 1900s with William McKinley. So we'll see how it plays out. Nonetheless, we understand that natural market forces are at play here, and they're having a direct impact all around the markets, including gold and silver's price. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what your thoughts are about the markets today in gold and silver. An absolute surge in both the prices, well over 3%. This is something else. So let me know what your thoughts are. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.